Hello and welcome to our final episode of our new student orientation series, Financial Aid Fridays. My name is Jessica Hickernell.
And my name is Simon Furland. Thank you to everyone joining us here tonight. And for those of you who have tuned into our previous episodes, thank you. And to note that tonight will be a little bit different. Tonight we are going to be going through the Money Matters checklist, overviewing all the information that we've talked about in prior episodes and really highlighting that need-to-know information for folks starting in the fall of 2020.
And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you so much. Simon, I can't properly describe how excited I am. I'm sad that this is our final episode. However, I am so excited to be telling folks about this final stretch of August and giving folks the important need-to-know money information. I don't know if you know this, but money is my passion.
I see that. I sure do.
Oh, you can see it, can you?
Did you do something to your hair?
Oh, yeah, I curled it a little. Thank you for noticing.
Looks nice.
So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome back. I'm going to say my line right this time. Buckle up. You are in for a wild final episode of the series. We have been hosting this Financial Aid Friday web series every Friday throughout June and July. And we cover all manners of topics related to financial aid, managing the student bill, really just information that incoming students need to know so that they can be prepared when they come to us in the fall. All of our episodes have been recorded. So every single episode from June and July, you can actually go right to our website at umaine.edu/stuaid, and you can actually binge watch all of the episodes.
Why not? And folks, we want this experience to be an interactive one. We want to hear from you. So if you have questions or comments that you think of during tonight's episode, please don't hesitate. Go ahead and write them down below. If you're watching from Facebook, write into the Facebook Live feed. If you're watching from YouTube, type it up as a YouTube comment, or if for some reason it's not letting you do either of those, or you just prefer a good old-fashioned email, go ahead and send us an email with your question at the address below. No one took me up on it last week, Jess, but if you want to send in a question via carrier pigeon, why not? Give it a shot. We'll be on the lookout because we have staff standing by waiting for your questions.
Absolutely. So, Simon, I think we should tell folks why it's so important for them to stay tuned to the end of this episode.
Why should they stay tuned to the end of the episode, Jess?
Well, we have a special announcement. And it's about some really special resources that are going to be available to our students and families during the academic year to just help you all stay up to date with financial aid information. So, I don't want to give away too much, but just make sure you tune in and stay tuned for the entire episode, not only so you get some really useful information, but so you get to hear the special announcement. So, Simon, I think we're ready to jump into our Money Matters checklist. So we are going to go ahead and get that right up on our screen here, and we're going to walk you right through. So our checklist. So first we're just going to go ahead and start with an overview of things that most students and families should have already completed by this point, of the year, of the summer. So first, hopefully you've already accepted your admission to UMaine. You've submitted your confirmation deposit to the Office of Admissions. Also, hopefully you have activated your atmaine.edu account. Very important because many offices on campus will be sending you important information via your atmaine.edu email address.
And even more important, or just as important, I should say, is that a lot of the communications, especially when you're communicating with our office, if you want to be able to discuss some student-specific, account-specific information or questions for us about your account, you're going to want to email us from your atmaine.edu account, and that way we can properly answer your question. So please do note that. Other items that you probably should consider if you haven't done them yet or may have already tackled them, submitting your FAFSA. That, of course, is the federal application for student aid. So that will allow you to become potentially eligible for things like grants and scholarships and federal direct loans. So you want to make sure to take care of that.
And just a special note on the FAFSA piece of it. Remember, the FAFSA is an annual process.
That's right.
So you want to make sure that you are filing that FAFSA every year. So if you've already filed it for this upcoming academic year, fantastic. Make sure you mark your calendars for October 1st, 2020, because that is when the next year's FAFSA will become available to you to complete.
That's right. And Jess, I want to take a little tangent here because I see that the next item on this checklist is reviewing your financial aid award. But what would you say if a student has filed their FAFSA but doesn't yet have a financial aid award?
Absolutely. So I would say the first step is to log into that Main Street account. And when you get to your student center, you will see a blue link in the finances section called FAFSA status. That's going to be the first place you're going to want to look. That's going to verify that we've actually received your FAFSA information. So check there. If you did submit it via the FAFSA.gov website and you are not seeing it under your FAFSA status link, give us a call. Sometimes, we have to manually get that information into our system, so then we can get a financial aid award for you. And then I would say the second step is, if you see that we have indeed received your FAFSA for the 2020-2021 academic year, I would then, on that same student center, check the to-do list. A lot of times when a student submits their FAFSA, there's additional information that our office needs before we can actually figure out what kind of financial aid the student is eligible for. And any additional information that we are requesting would be available, you would be able to see it right on that Main Street to-do list.
And that to-do list is incredibly important because there are some items that may not be there right away, but, and I think this is further down in the checklist, but let's say you accept your student loans, there are additional items that will then pop up on that to-do list, which we'll discuss in a moment. So your next step, of course, let's assume you've filed your FAFSA, you've handled the to-do list items if there were any associated with it, and you received a financial aid award package. Very exciting. You're going to want to review that financial aid award thoroughly, and that way you can make an appropriate plan. You can think about, is this going to cover my bill for the fall, for the spring? It's that time where you want to make your plans and figure out the logistics to make sure that you are set for this academic year. So that's certainly very important. And that brings us to the next item. Jess, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, actually, before we move on to that next item, Simon, can you let our viewers know how they would actually see their financial aid award? Where are the different places that they'll be able to see their financial aid information?
Absolutely. So the moment that you are fully packaged, and your financial aid award is posted to your account, that's spot number one, is directly on your Main Street account. So you can certainly check that, and as Jess and I have strongly encouraged folks in prior episodes, the importance of checking that, preferably weekly. Jess likens it to checking your bank account, and I certainly agree with that analogy. So I would strongly encourage folks to monitor their Main Street accounts, because you can, as soon as you sign in from your student center, you can actually click on View Financial Aid, and it will show you your financial aid award. Now, that being said, if once you are awarded a financial aid package, we will also send you a physical letter with the details of each individual item that create your particular financial aid package. So that will be sent out to you as well.
Perfect, wonderful. So then once you actually receive that financial aid award and you're looking at it on your Main Street account, you really want to go in there, and there are some types of awards that you may be eligible for that you actually have to accept. You have to tell our office that you do want those. Anything that has grants or scholarships associated with it, you don't have to worry about accepting those. We automatically assume you're going to want those, that good stuff, the free money, the grants, the scholarships. It's really the loan piece. So if you were offered any federal direct loans, whether it was a subsidized loan or an unsubsidized loan, if you plan on borrowing those funds, if you want to access those funds, then you actually have to, the first step is to accept those on your Main Street account. Now again, you're going to start right on your student center, and then right in that finances section, there's going to be a blue link that says accept decline awards. You'll click on the 2021 academic year, and that's going to bring you right to the screen. It'll break down your financial aid for you, and it allows you to check a box if you want to accept them, or let's say you don't plan on borrowing those loans, which is perfectly okay. You're not required to borrow those loans. You can actually decline those loans and let us know that you don't plan on borrowing those.
And just a note on that, if you did, let's say you declined them initially and then changed your mind, you can certainly contact our office, and we can we can assist you with that process to put those back up as offered if you did want to do that. Now, Jess, you mentioned that the federal direct loans are both subsidized and unsubsidized. You want to tell folks the difference between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the subsidized portion, what that means is that the federal government actually pays the interest for those loans while the student is enrolled in classes. So interest doesn't actually start accruing on that loan until the student graduates. And then unsubsidized portion of that federal direct loan, that means that on that particular amount, interest will begin accruing on that immediately. So a couple notes on that. You may see different amounts of the subsidized portion and the unsubsidized portion. The amounts that you are awarded of each of those, specifically that subsidized portion, we get that amount directly from the FAFSA. So from the information from the FAFSA, that helps us to determine the amount of total subsidized loan that you're able to have. Another note on those federal direct loans, you'll see a very common amount for an incoming first-time borrower, first-time student is $5,500 if you combine both subsidized and unsubsidized portions. What the Department of Education has actually done is they've set what's called grade level maximums for the amount of these types of loans that a student is able to borrow each year. So what they've said is, as a first year, the maximum amount of combined subsidized and unsubsidized loan that a first year student can get is $5,500. And then as the student advances grade levels, so as they go to sophomore and then to junior, senior level, their eligibility actually increases. So as a sophomore, you'd be eligible for $6,500 of combined subsidized and unsubsidized. And then for junior and senior level, grade level, you would be eligible for $7,500. And those are actually dependent student amounts. If you are an independent student for FAFSA, for financial aid purposes, those amounts are a little bit different. But we do list out all of those right on our website.
Excellent. All right, so moving to the next item in this checklist, enroll in classes for the fall semester. Now, for some of you, you may log into your Main Street account and already see your class schedule is posted there. Very often that will happen. That's actually typically done by your advisor for your initial semester. For those of you that log in and you don't yet see a class schedule, there could be a few reasons for that. And this is why, yet again, why it's so important to monitor both your Main Street and specifically your to-do list. It could be something such as a math placement exam, which typically needs to be completed to assess, what level of mathematics would be most appropriate, and that way your advisor can then determine your initial class schedule. So certainly something to keep in mind there.
Also, Simon, it could also potentially be a student financial responsibility statement.
That's true.
That is preventing an enrollment for a semester for a student. And we'll actually get into that a little bit further down, but that could also be preventing a student from enrolling. So what I would say, if you don't see either of those items on your Main Street account and you still haven't been enrolled in classes, I would recommend reaching out to your academic department. They should be able to point you in the direction of your academic advisor, and at least you can start talking about starting that process and figuring out what needs to be done so you can get enrolled in courses for the fall. So it looks, so those items right there, that is really, hopefully at this point, like we said, you've completed most of those items. So this next section, these are some items that, really through August you need to be focusing on completing. So that once you get here in the fall, at the end of August, you are set to go in terms of financial aid and student billing. So that first item is report any outside aid. Now, Simon, when a student receives any sort of outside scholarship or outside assistance, anything like that, a lot of students, they'll apply for outside scholarships through their high school or different clubs or organizations that they may be a part of. You are required to report those outside scholarships to us. Simon, can you talk a little bit about the process of how to report those scholarships and how the student will know that we've received that information?
Absolutely. So there are a few different ways available to you that you can tackle that situation. First and foremost, you can actually report that directly to us via your Main Street account. So you would log in, you navigate to your student center, and then on the left-hand side in the finances section, there's a blue link that says accept/decline awards, which is, as Jess mentioned earlier, where you would go to do just that. But there are, in fact, a few other pages associated with that link, including reporting changes to your housing, reporting enrollment changes or what you're expecting to take for your courses. If you're planning on only being at 3/4 time, 9 credits, let's say, in the spring, then you can report that to us, and we'll get into why that you'd want to do that in a moment. And then additionally, that would be where you can report outside aid. So those external third-party scholarships that you've received, those notification letters from local organizations or your high school, things like that. You can actually report the item on that page as well as the amount, and even if it's for a particular term. And then we can actually process that information and we pick up that you're reporting and indicating to us that you have an outside scholarship in X amount of dollars. And then we can post that as expected aid onto your account. Now the other way, of course, is you can send us a copy of that notification letter directly to our office. You can mail it into us or scan it, and you can use our secure upload utility on our website, which would be located at umaine.edu/stuaid/upload. And that will get it to us as well, and then we can, as I mentioned, post it as an expected an expected outside scholarship.
And what I will say is about those scholarship letters, we do like to have those letters on file because a lot of times those scholarship letters will have some important information, regarding which semester that the scholarship is going to be applied to, whether it's going to be half for the fall, half for the spring, all of it just for the fall, or all of it just for the spring. In addition, a lot of times outside scholarship organizations, they do require some additional information. So things like a transcript, enrollment verification, an invoice or a bill. So it's very, very important that you're reading those award letters. What I will say is if the scholarship organization is requesting a transcript or enrollment verification, the student will be responsible for submitting that to the scholarship organization. And they can actually do a lot of those functions right through their Main Street account or contacting student records directly. But if the scholarship organization is actually looking for a bill or invoicing of some kind, we actually take care of that. So that's another reason just to send us a copy of that scholarship letter.
That's right. And now, Jess, would now be a good time to talk about those enrollment changes, or am I jumping ahead here?
I think now is a good time to talk about those enrollment changes.
Fair enough. So as I mentioned, right through that Accept or Decline Awards link, you can also, in addition to reporting outside aid and accepting and declining your award, you can report to us your enrollment plans. And the reason that you would want to do that is because there are some types of aid which are impacted by your enrollment level. So, for example, any merit scholarship that you might have been awarded directly through the Office of Admissions, not all of them, but the primary ones that you may have been awarded, are enrollment dependent. So between 12 and 14 credits, they would be reduced, as well as 6 to 9, basically anything that's not 15 credits, those items would be adjusted. There are other items that are similarly affected by enrollment less than 15 credits. The federal Pell Grant, for example, is sort of tied to enrollment. So in order for you to really make sure that things are showing the proper way, the proper amount on your Main Street account, if you're planning for your spring semester and you want to make sure that you know how much financial aid you have if you do take 9 credits, if you're wondering about that, you can certainly communicate with us first. But if you're sure that you're going to take 9 credits, let's say, then you're going to want to report that to us, and that way we can make the necessary adjustments ahead of time, and then you can see how that will impact your aid and make the necessary sort of adjustments yourself as well.
So Simon, just another note on that, another question. So should students and families assume that if they are taking less than 15 credits and if we adjust aid, that they're going to be left with a bill?
Now that's a wonderful question, because it's certainly something that we get asked very frequently in our discussions. So one thing that you want to sort of keep in mind is the reduction in your scholarship more than the reduction in how much you're paying for tuition and fees. So if you decide instead of 15 credits, you want to be at 12 credits, well, now you're not going to be charged for those 3 extra credits that you've decided not to take. So really, it's about figuring out, okay, how much is my scholarship or is my financial aid going to be reduced, and compare that to the cost of those 3 credits. Now, more often than not, at least in my experience, the amount that you're saving from not paying for those credits is typically more than the amount that we are reducing your scholarship. So you're not actually losing out on any money or having to pay more as a result of that decision. But it is, if it's something you're worried about or want us to figure out and calculate for you, as I mentioned, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to take a look at the effect that decision would have on your financial aid.
Absolutely. And Simon, actually, while we're talking about that accept decline screen, and we've talked about reporting outside aid, we've talked about reporting enrollment, I think it's appropriate to talk about reporting your housing plans as well.
Why not? Let's be as thorough as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other items that you can do on that accept decline screen is actually report to us what your housing plans are. So whether you plan on living on campus, whether you plan on living off campus in an apartment, or whether you're planning on living at home with parents. Simon, one of the really important things is that students are keeping us updated as to what their housing plans are. In some cases, that can affect the actual financial aid. Now, when we talk about a student's eligibility for financial aid, their overall total amount that they're able to have, we talk about that cost of attendance. That cost of attendance includes not only direct costs that a student is going to have on their bill, like for tuition and fees or on-campus room and board, but also that cost of attendance has indirect expenses in there as well, for miscellaneous, travel, books and supplies, those sort of things. And it's that overall cost of attendance that we actually have to adjust based on where the student is living. So based on whether the student is living on campus, off campus in an apartment, or with parent, we're going to adjust that room and board component. So like I said, that is the main reason why that could affect the total amount of aid that a student is able to have. So it's definitely important to be keeping us updated on that.
Excellent. Okay, shall we continue in our Money Matters checklist?
I think we should. And I think we're going to move right into talking about, I think we should talk about the next two together, the next 2 items, since they both pertain directly to some requirements for the federal direct loans. Simon, you want to get us started on this?
I would love to do that. So as I mentioned earlier, that accepting your federal direct loans will then add a few items to your to-do list, and these are those 2 items. So accepting those loans, in order for those to actually disperse to your account, the federal government wants you to complete what's called entrance counseling, as well as signing your loan agreement, or previously known as the master promissory note. Now, the entrance counseling is effectively walking you through how loans work, how compound interest works, what repayment will look like, basically the ins and outs of these loans. And effectively, what is important here, the takeaway here, is that students and families understand what it is that they're actually accepting when they accept a loan of this kind. So it's really worth taking the time to go through this. I mean, traditionally it takes 10-15 minutes, but there's a great deal of information about these loans, and that way you know exactly what it is you're taking on by accepting those particular items.
Absolutely. And then that second item that is a requirement in order for those loan funds to be able to get applied to the student charges is that loan agreement master promissory note. Now, what I usually compare this to is it's basically the contract that you have with the Department of Education saying that you understand that you are borrowing funds from the Department of Education and you promise to pay it back based on the terms and conditions of the Department of Education. Again, I would say it probably takes you around 15 minutes to complete, but that is another requirement for those federal direct loans. Now, both of those items, that entrance counseling and the loan agreement / master promissory note, can be completed right at studentaid.gov. Now, when you go to studentaid.gov, you'll see a current borrowers, a current student section, and then there'll be two separate links for each of those items. A lot of folks, Simon, sometimes unfortunately only complete one and think that they've done both. So it's really important that you're clicking on each of those links to complete both the entrance counseling and the master promissory note.
And our system will pick up, generally what happens is within 24 to 48 hours, that the completion of those items is reported to us. So we will actually be able to detect, yes, you've completed those items, and then run a process that will actually remove that to-do list item from your account. So if you're monitoring your Main Street account, you'll see that happen and you'll have confirmation that you've completed those. But they, of course, also have their own confirmation screens after you do complete them. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so the next item is a big one. So far, we have discussed everything leading up to your financial aid award as brought to you via your FAFSA, completing your FAFSA, any aid that we've provided you as an institution, and those direct loans that we just discussed. So assuming you've taken a look at all of that information, just what would be an option for folks where their financial aid award doesn't quite meet the balance on their account and they want to look into those additional funding options?
Absolutely. So I would say there's a couple different options to keep on that radar. The first are additional loan options. Then within that category, there's two types of additional loans I usually talk about with families. The first is called the Federal Parent Plus loan. Now, just a quick overview on that. That is a federal loan in the parent's name. It is a credit-based loan, so what that means is the parent borrower actually has to apply directly through the Department of Education and be approved for that loan. It's a set interest rate that's set every year for that, and there are also some deferment options related to that particular loan that parent borrowers can opt into. Now, just a little side note on those Federal Parent Plus loans. Let's say credit is a concern for the parent borrower. If the parent applies for this Federal Parent Plus loan, and let's say they're denied for it, it actually opens up a couple of options. Either the parent borrower can elect to use a endorser, which is basically a cosigner, to try to get approved for that loan. Or if the parent who is denied decides to not go the endorser route, it actually opens up some additional federal direct unsubsidized eligibility for the student. So remember, that's a guaranteed type of loan, so the student wouldn't have to apply for that or anything like that. So what I would say in terms of the process is once you apply, whether you're approved or denied for the loan, we will automatically get that information. And again, depending on whether you're approved or denied, you would see adjustments made to the financial aid award. Either the actual Federal Parent Plus loan posted for the amount that is processed for, or that additional unsubsidized loan if denied. So that's the first type of loan that I usually talk to folks about. The second type of loan is called an alternative educational loan. Now, these are private loans. These are probably the more common loans that folks hear about. I know, there's usually a lot of marketing around these. Folks usually get a lot of mailings around these. These are credit-based loans in the student's name through private organizations like lenders. I know very commonly like Sallie Mae, Nelnet, Discover, or even credit unions, financial institutions, things like that. They all offer different alternative educational loan options. Now, again, these are loans in the student's name, so since they are credit-based loans, they usually require a credit-worthy cosigner. It's not required that this cosigner be the parent, it just has to be a credit-worthy cosigner. Now, Simon, one of the questions we get a lot is, how do I choose a lender? Because there are so many options out there. Do you want to talk to folks about our great resource for helping to choose an alternative loan lender?
I would love to do that. So what I typically recommend to folks who are exploring those alternative loan options is to have them take a look at elmselect.com. Now that's elm like the tree. You go there, you type in the University of Maine as the school, and it will ask you whether or not it's for an undergraduate career or graduate career. So in this case, in this example, we'll select undergraduate, and then there will be a button that says View Loans. Once you navigate to that, it will show you a grid of the top 9 or 10 lenders that we've worked with in the past, that we have an established relationship with and a history with, and it allows you to sort of shop around and compare. It allows you to select a few different loan lenders and compare their interest rates, for example. You can even drill down another level. So let's say hypothetically you select Sallie Mae, you click on that lender, and then within the Sallie Mae grid box, then there are 2 additional loan options that Sallie Mae offers. Now, some of these loans come in a fixed interest rate variety. Others are variable interest rates. So there are different loan types, there are different interest rates, and there are different terms and conditions. And this is something that I always recommend to folks, is take the time to look and read through some of those terms and conditions, because each of those loan options has a details button, and if you select that, it will give you some additional options that come with that loan. So some of them off the top of my head are increased grace periods. So a grace period is the period of time after a student graduates or goes below half time where they still don't have to actually make any payments. Traditionally, it's about 6 months, and then they're notified, okay, now your payments will start. However, some lenders offer longer grace periods, 9 months, a year, things like that. Some other terms and conditions to look out for are the ability to drop a cosigner. So as Jess mentioned, these are credit-based loans, and as very frequently undergraduates coming into their first semester typically don't have an established credit history, so they usually need a cosigner. So the ability to, after they graduate and make, let's say, X number of successful payments, 6 or 9 successful consecutive payments, alone with that option will allow them to drop the cosigner. So that's definitely something worth taking a look. So that is what I recommend to folks. elmselect.com will sort of give you all the options to compare the different loan options, because there, as Jess mentioned, there are quite a few out there, so it's worth taking the time to look.
And Simon, what I would say is, I know when I'm talking to folks about helping them navigate Elm Select, especially if this is your first time ever applying for an educational loan. Unfortunately, we can't tell you which lender to go with, but we can certainly guide you and help you understand the information you're reading. I usually have a top 3 items that I like to focus on when looking at lenders. 1, interest rate options, like Simon had mentioned, fixed versus variable. Repayment options. A lot of times, it's sort of all across the spectrum for different lenders in terms of whether they offer standard repayment options, income-driven repayment options, things like that. And then the third is deferment options. And so whether you have to start making payments immediately, whether you have to start making payments on interest rates immediately, whether everything's deferred while the student is in school, I usually like to simplify it down to those top 3 things if you're trying to figure out where to start with comparing loan lenders.
Okay, so that takes care of additional sort of the 2 loan options that Jess mentioned. Now, some folks, in terms of when they ask us about additional funding solutions, will ask us about scholarships. Now, this is something that I love to talk to folks about because, quite frankly, if you're already asking, then you're already interested. So, taking the time to research, to look at scholarship databases. There are a lot of national databases as well as state databases and regional databases of scholarship funding. Some of those will allow you to sort of narrow down the available scholarship. I've seen some databases with 25,000 scholarships within them, but then they allow you some filtering options so that you can look for the ones that the student meet the criteria for. So if you want to sort of drill down to those ones, and then you can apply for them. And I strongly encourage folks to take the time to look for those and apply for those and take advantage of those. It's certainly something that I wish I had done as an incoming, first year undergraduate. So I would encourage folks, because I know that there are a lot of scholarship options out there, and it can seem overwhelming. Set aside a Saturday to take a look, do some research, and apply.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree, and I always say, it's going to be tedious in the moment. If you feel like I can't write another essay about what my favorite color is, just push through it, because once you're at the end of the tunnel, at the end of your college career, and you're getting ready to graduate, and you have that much less loan debt, your future self is going to be thanking you.
Absolutely.
So that's what I like to say. All right, Simon. So this next section of to-do items here, these are all related to managing your bill, your student bill. So I think we're going to go through these kind of quickly. We'll just briefly touch on them. What I will preface this with is we did a solid 2 episodes, and a lot of our other episodes we touched on some of these other processes about all of these items. We've actually, I know in the student bill part 1, we actually walked you through Main Street and how to do a lot of these, and then in student bill part 2 episode, we walked you through the TouchNet bill pay system. So the first one is this: complete the student financial responsibility statement. So this is an item that will show up on your to-do list. Something to note about this, that this has to be completed every semester. And this is basically your agreement with the university saying, yep, I'm going to get charged for the classes I want to take, I'm going to get charged for on-campus housing, and I understand that that is a financial obligation that I have to, either through my financial aid or additional loan options or out-of-pocket payments, that I have to pay those bills. So again, that is an every semester requirement, and you can access that right through the Main Street to-do list.
Excellent. And the next item, waiving or opting out or completing enrollment for the student health insurance plan. So some of you may have noticed, because I know that the bursar's office, they're actively processing and posting bills to student accounts and sending those out. Some of you may have received a bill and noticed the health insurance charge on that bill. Now that is something that is on by default. However, for folks who already are covered by an insurance plan, perhaps through their family or whatever the case may be, if you already have insurance, you can still waive the student health insurance plan that is on your bill, theoretically. So the way that you would do that is by navigating to umaine.edu/bursar, that's BURSAR/insurance. That will take you to the bursar's office, their webpage that has specific information about this insurance plan. So even if you're not intending on waiving out, if you want additional information about it, you can navigate there. On that page, in addition to the cost information, and it's through Gallagher Health, for example, there is a link that will allow you to waive out of that plan. It will then take you, once you click on it, to an external site, to the Gallagher student portal. You'll be able to then log in with your Main Street ID and password. And then once you log in, you'll be on your own custom student dashboard page through Gallagher. And over on the left-hand side, you'll see two buttons, Waive or Enroll. If you select the Waive option, it will then ask you for some pieces of information about your particular insurance plan that you currently have, things like the policy ID number and the company that it's through and that sort of thing. So once you've filled that information out and submitted it, it will be verified, and the charge will be able to be removed from your account. So certainly something to watch out for if you already have insurance.
Absolutely. So if we scroll down on our checklist here, we will see the next item is add an authorized user to view and pay your student bill. So let's say you're a parent or parents or guardian or somebody who is helping you through the college process, the student bill process. Then what I would definitely recommend is considering adding those folks as an authorized user. Now, when you add somebody as an authorized user, you are giving them access to view your student bill. You're giving them access to make payments to the student bill. You're giving them access to enroll in installment payment plans. It really just is allowing them to help you manage your student bill. Now, it's not required that you add an authorized user. It's just recommended if you do have folks helping you out. So again, we went through the step-by-step on how to do this in one of our earlier episodes, but you'll just go to your Main Street account, and then if you click on your view bill link, it'll bring you to, you'll click on the additional bill options, and that'll bring you to our TouchNet bill payment system, where you would be able to authorize a user.
And the other thing that you can do by following the exact steps that Jessica just described in order to get to the TouchNet system is to enroll in an installment payment plan. And as mentioned, we have gone through both of the payment plan options thoroughly in a prior episode. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. But effectively and very briefly, you have a 4-payment option and a 5-payment option. And you can enroll in those directly through the TouchNet system. Just keep in mind that let's say you went with the 5-payment option, your first payment will be, it'll ask you to process that the same day. In fact, while you're enrolling in this payment plan, it's asking for it as a down payment. So your first payment is that same day, and there's a one-time $35 enrollment fee for actually establishing this payment plan. You can do that before even the due date. Now the due date for the fall bill, normally it would be August 15th. However, we have pushed that back to September 15th. So you can set up your payment plan prior to that date, or even back in August if you wanted to do so, and that'll take care of things for you. All right, the next item, Jess, I'm going to jump through here a few additional items very quickly. The direct deposit enrollment, also something that we've discussed in prior episodes, and that you can do directly through your Main Street account. You can sign up for it and provide your banking information. And then, Jess, what about the student authorization? You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is another way for you to help you manage your student account, and an item you can do right through your Main Street account. Now, this student authorization indicates two things to us. So first, if you are left with a refund, which is basically that overage of financial aid, if you have more financial aid than what your charges are, you can authorize the university to keep that refund on your account for future charges. So let's say you've got that refund for the fall and you want to keep it on there to get applied to the spring. You can check a box on this student authorization and indicate that you want that left on your account instead of being direct deposited to you, or if you haven't set up your direct deposit, a check sent to you. The other item on there that we would definitely recommend you take a look at is authorizing your financial aid to cover all charges on your account. So normally financial aid it can only go towards tuition and fees and room and board and things like that. So if you get things like a parking bill or a library fine or things like that, a main card replacement fee, things like that, normally that financial aid will not go to cover that. So again, it just is a way to help you manage your student bill. And then another item that you can complete right on your Main Street account is report anticipated resources. So anticipated resources is information that's going to go directly to the bursar's office. So this would be if you are anticipating any sort of outside assistance that isn't showing on your financial aid award yet, and so it's not showing up as pending financial aid. Then you can actually report to the bursar's office that you have some anticipated resources coming in, so that if those funds aren't physically at the bursar's office on September 15th, you don't get a late fee. Simon, can you give some examples of what folks would put into that anticipated resources?
Sure. So some examples would be if you're planning on applying for a loan, for example, you could report that under anticipated resources, or scholarships that you're anticipating. Maybe they haven't been processed, you haven't sent us the notification letter, but you want them to be listed there. Again, as just mentioned, it's really about informing both parties, and this particular resource is in order to inform the bursar's office that you have that aid incoming. Trying to think if there are others. I suppose a 529 plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be a good one to report that way. So if you have a 529 plan that is set up, that you're anticipating on utilizing, and typically when you do that through the particular administrative portal for your particular plan, a check will be sent to the bursar's office. But it is also certainly prudent to utilize this anticipated resources option to notify the bursar's office before they even have check in hand that you are intending to utilize that.
Absolutely. So this next item, Simon, this is a really, really big one, a really important one that I'm glad is kind of towards the end of this list, so we can really emphasize is this student consent to release information form. Now, one of the things that is very important to us and is very highly regulated by the federal government is that we are required to ensure that a student's privacy and their financial information is kept safe. And so what that means is after August 15th, we are required to have a student consent to release information form on file if we are able to release, in order for us to release any specific student account information. So for example, let's say you do have a parent who's assisting you, or a guardian or a family member who's assisting you through the financial aid process. At this point right now, if they were to call our office, we would be able to assist them. If they're listed on the FAFSA, we would be able to talk to them about the student's account and help them with any questions that they may have. Now, August 15th, that is really the date that a student, an incoming student, becomes a UMaine student. You're official, you're a matriculated student, and so at that point, that is when FERPA, that is the actual federal regulation, kicks on. And so at that point, if a parent or a family member or somebody who's assisting the student calls us, if the student has not given us written permission to talk to that person, we would only be able to give general information. We would not be able to give any student-specific information. Simon, do you want to talk about how and where a student can find this consent to release information form?
Absolutely. So what you would want to do is head on over to the UMaine Office of Student Records website, because on their website, right along the top, you'll see a section labeled Forms. Once you navigate there, you'll see all the forms that office provides, and about, I believe it's about 3/4 of the way down the list, you'll see student consent to release information, and you'll be able to click on that and actually download the form and fill that out, and then send it on over to the Office of Student Records for processing. Now keep in mind that form asks for the last 4 digits of the individual that you're adding consent to, their social security number. And the reason for that is that we can verify that individual. Let's say it's a parent. When they call us, we'll be asking them for the last 4 of their social so that we can verify their identity and thus be able to talk to them about the specifics of the account in question. And they do also, I should mention, have electronic versions of the form for electronic signing as well.
Perfect. Again, I just want to pause. That student consent to release information form is so important, and oftentimes a piece that can be easily overlooked. So please take a look at on the Student Records website. Get that in if you do want to authorize anybody for us to release information to anybody of your choice. Okay, our final item here is contact student employment for assistance with finding an on-campus job. Simon, you want to start us off with the kind of employment that's available on campus and where students can start looking for those positions?
I would love to do that. So typically what you're looking at for student employment types, you have federal work-study positions and non-federal work-study positions. Now that depends on, for those of you unfamiliar with federal work-study, it's a type of financial aid that for those who are eligible for it, and this depends on the financial information listed in your FAFSA when you've submitted that, it may be part of your financial aid award. And what that means is, now this is not money. Let's say you were awarded, I don't know, $2,000 of federal work study. This is not funding that will disperse to your account, at the beginning of the semester. This is in fact an allocation of funds available to you, the student, should you then decide to apply for and obtain a work-study position, and then your regular paycheck that you receive bi-weekly would come out of that fund. Now, for those of you that may not have work-study through your financial aid award, there are certainly plenty of non-federal work-study positions available as well. And the place that all of you, work-study and non-work-study, would want to take a look and search for those positions would be the UMaine Career Link. Now you will be receiving, I believe, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, a letter to create the CareerLink account in August. But effectively what CareerLink is a database of all the positions available on campus, again, both work-study and non-work-study, and it gives you a lot of the tools and resources necessary for searching for and applying for those positions. What I would say is that for those of you that have questions about that process or about CareerLink itself, I strongly encourage you to reach out to the Office of Student Employment. They have some wonderful staff members who would be more than happy to help you navigate that process and answer your questions.
Okay, Simon, that is the end of our checklist. So before we move into our closing remarks here and we have our special announcement, I do want to just take a minute or two just for one last piece of advice for our viewers. So Simon, do you want to start us off? What's the one thing that folks should have on their mind right now as they're mentally and packing and physically preparing for move-in at the end of August?
I'm actually going to cheat here, Jess, and offer up 2 pieces
of
advice. I'm doubling out. That's our last episode. So number one is understand that it is okay to feel a little overwhelmed because there's a lot to think about, and that is natural. And so to that, what I would suggest is really be comfortable with reaching out. If you have questions for us, financial aid questions, reach out. We would love to talk to you and to help you with this process. I promise, we're very friendly. So I would encourage reaching out, keeping open lines of communication, and allowing the various offices and the various folks who work here on campus to help you with your journey and to start things off. And the second is really less about the specifics of navigating financial aid and more just a piece of friendly student advice, which I've received myself from our Vice President of Enrollment Management. In the past, I've heard him say it plenty of times, and that is to really get engaged. Take a look at some of the groups on campus, take a look at some of the different communities and the different activities that are on campus, and be active. Really embrace the multitude of options there are in terms of activities and groups and opportunities here on campus. It's a wonderful time to try something new. If you want to start rock climbing and you've never tried it, there's a community for you and they can help you with that. So really try new things and explore all those different options.
Absolutely. And Simon, I'm gonna do the same thing as you. I've got 2 items.
Well, there we go.
So the first is when it comes to financial aid, just remember there is no small question, there is no stupid question. Don't be afraid to ask the question. Maintaining communication with our office is going to be important. Please know that we have an open door. Right now it's a virtual open door, but we are here to help you through this process so it doesn't become overwhelming, so it doesn't become stressful, so that you can really focus your attention on the fun college stuff. Like living in residence halls and making friends and going to classes and things like that. So first piece of advice, make sure you are communicating with us, whether it's a change in your circumstance, you just want to check on your account, you just need a clarification on one little thing. Please know we are here to help. And Simon, I like to say, you have got friends in financial aid. We are very friendly friends in financial aid. So then my second piece of advice is, again, just more general. Take the time to invest in creating relationships with people, meeting new people, and just being excited for creating new friendships and connections with everybody on campus, because they're really going to be connections that are going to affect you for really the rest of your life. So just be prepared and be open for that stuff. So, Simon, I think we should tell folks what the special announcement is.
I think the time has come.
I think the time has come. So as you all know, this is our final episode of our new student orientation series for Financial Aid Fridays. And because of you, the viewers, you have made this a successful series. You have utilized the information that we have been providing you. You have watched, you've binge watched over holiday weekends. And because of that, we have decided to have a season 2 of Financial Aid Fridays. So it's going to look a little different. We won't be live every week. It will be, once or twice a month. We will be coming to you live on a Friday. We will have our full schedule posted to our website within the next couple of weeks here, so you can mark your calendars for the next year. So we are so excited that we are going to be able to, that our contract for a second season has been extended. So Simon, I'm very excited.
As am I. I tried to get us confetti cannons for this announcement, but I didn't get them in time. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, darn. At least you tried. So, with that, please check out the recordings of these episodes. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. I do want to do a special shout out to the man behind the camera, Derek Dubois, who is another important colleague in our office who has made these productions possible and has put in a lot of time and effort. And with that, Simon, you have a good night. Folks, have a good night.
Good night, everyone.